We have a very special guest today. He was a two-time Olympian in the javelin in 1992 and 1996. He was the assistant coach for the 2012 London Olympics on the U.S. team. He is also a six-time U.S. javelin champion. And also, two of his current athletes that he coaches competed in the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. Here is Tom Pukstys.
How you doing, Coach? What's up?
Nothing. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on.
If I remember correctly, I measured your state record throw a few years back at Hoover.
Oh yeah, no, that's 100% true. Yeah, I'm upset that I didn't get to finish out that year, but you know, it is
How
what
far
it is.
did you throw that day? Am I mistaken? 63.5 was it?
It was 63-3, I believe. Yeah,
That was fun for me.
heck yeah. Hey, it was a lot of fun for me too. That was a fun meet.
You were happy as a camp. Yeah, you were a happy camper. I know you were very happy.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, I was that was like a 3 foot PR for me, so that was a huge meet, no doubt, no doubt.
You had a lot of support. I remember a lot of hooting and hollering.
No, I love my high school. My high school team, especially all the throwers, they were all great. We had a really good relationship, and even other throwers there. I knew a bunch of the throwers, so it was
Yeah, I think
it was a
everybody
really
was
good
rooting for
atmosphere.
you. Yeah, there was parents, and it was more than just your buddies. It was, significant support for you.
No, 100%. I really appreciated that day. So
What
it's
year was that? Remind me. Is that 18 or 19? No, that would have been
it was
19.
it was I think it was 2020 because it was
2020,
it was right before, yeah, the 2 or 3 weeks
right
after.
before COVID.
Yeah,
Right.
I was on the way up to New York at the indoor nationals when they canceled it. So yeah, it was like 2 or 3 weeks before that. So
Yeah, I feel for you. I forgot that was your senior season. Now, yeah, that shut a few people that I helped along the way. They missed out on state championship chances and all those things. So,
oh yeah, no, I was really upset because the in Alabama they don't really have a state record. They just have like the state meet record. So
oh,
like the state, we never even get to go to the state meet my senior year, even though like that was the first meet of the year and that was over what the state meet record was. So it was kind of unfortunate, but what can you do? There ain't nothing you can do about it now.
no, you got the memory of a wicked throw.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
All
That
right,
well,
so what do you got for me, Bob? What's up?
I was just listening to your podcast. You did. I don't know the guy's name, but it was Through the Point podcast, a little javelin podcast you did a while ago. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to know, how did you first get into throwing? Because javelin's not a huge thing, especially in the U.S. So how did, being from Illinois, how did you actually
Yeah.
first get into throwing?
So the brief answer is I loved throwing things as a kid. I was always throwing rocks at the beach, and I was known for throwing crab apples and snowballs at buses, even as a little kid, and got myself in trouble, the usual things. And it ended up my family heritage is Lithuanian, and I come from a very modest upbringing in Chicago. My dad was just a teacher. It's not like we had big bucks or anything like that. So he had an opportunity to go to medical school in Lithuania. And, in the Soviet Union at the time, you don't have to pay, you go for free. And we thought that was a good option, or my family and my parents, and he went and they roomed him with a javelin thrower. And it just turned out that my brother threw shot and disc in high school, and I used to actually play as a young man with the shot and discus. So I mean, I kind of had an idea what it looked like, what it felt like, even at 8 and 10 years old. But when my brother roomed with this javelin thrower, he would talk about, hey, I got this little brother at home. He's skinny and he can throw really far. He's like, oh, bring him some javelins. And believe it or not, after a few years, they brought some javelins home. And my brother actually ended up throwing a little bit. He could throw a couple 100 feet, or maybe I think like 210 he threw.
Oh
And he
wow.
threw the shot like 53 in college and 168 or something in the disc. So he had some horsepower he could throw. And he started teaching me what the Soviet coaches were telling him to teach me. And so I picked up throwing about 12 years old. And the next thing you know, I'm in Lithuania when I was 13, and they started to teach me, but I was playing baseball, and javelin's like, yeah, whatever, javelin throwing, what is this? I play baseball.
Yeah.
So, well, one thing led to another, and I ended up a javelin thrower.
Heck yeah.
Well,
That's definitely interesting there because I was gonna say, like, did they even throw javelin in Illinois?
no, I had to sneak into, I did like AAU summer meets and lied
Yeah.
to get into the big meets and told them I'd thrown farther than I actually did, and then I would throw a PR in the meet. So it made me, I made myself look good by performing well. But so my attraction to track and field was I was a good baseball player in high school. I played varsity as a younger, a freshman, sophomore year. I was really sharp on the mound. I was a really solid hitter and catcher. Um, but I had this. I remember watching TV and seeing like Al Order and Brian Oldfield on TV,
Hmm.
and I'm seeing these giant muscular figures, and I'm thinking, yeah, that would be a lot cooler than being a baseball player. Little did I know about the money part. But I see baseball players at the time for the Chicago teams. Well, they're not like they're wicked coordinated athletes, but they're not Superman looking attractive physical specimens. And
Yeah.
I kind of like I want to be one of those big boys.
Heck
And
yeah.
so that kind of was a change in my mindset. And then the javelin came a little easier, but I did throw shot and disc in high school. So my results were solid, about 57, 10 and a half in the shot. I was third in the state, and then I threw 178.2 in the discus. So I wasn't
Oh
exactly
yeah.
terrible, and I weighed 185 pounds, and I wasn't strong. And the coaches, like Jerry Clayton, who's already retired, but he recruited me to Illinois to throw shot and disc. He didn't know I can throw the javelin 240 in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't either, you know.
What do you think about the javelin not being allowed in a bunch of states around the U.S.?
I'm okay with it. Unfortunately, it's too dangerous to let kids who aren't concentrating throw it. If you pierce somebody with it, it's terrible. The only drawback is our talent pool isn't as big as other nations might be. But the fact is since I've been throwing javelin, we've gone from like 16 or 14 states that held it now to 21. So it's expanding. Mississippi's picking it up, Florida. So our actual talent pool, is greater. So I'm really hoping that another world champion level performer comes out of these states that just so happen to pick up the javelin in the last 3 years.
No, 100%. And
So
I didn't really realize that and I grew up in Alabama for the most part, and we had javelin. I
we have
never even knew
javelin.
that it was that really only 20 states do it. Like it was that
Yeah,
shock
yeah.
to me, really.
Well, imagine, if you, how many times across the field in the center, if there's javelin, if you don't flag it off, a distance runner runs through. I mean, they don't know. They're in the middle of their passions. And, how concentrated can you be? And it only takes one error to kill somebody. And so, unfortunately, a lot of people have been stuck and hit by javelins, and nobody's died that I know of in the last 30 or 40 years. But hey, man, I can admit that it can be dangerous. So, we've seen a lot of issues in shot and disc in high school, danger wise, kids on phones. And I come from a state in Illinois where a young man died from a hammer throw at a
Mm.
meet at Wheaton College in 2017. And so safety has always been an issue for me. I mean, I am the national coordinator for men's throws for USA Track and Field, and I have been since '05. So can you imagine when I go to a track meet and I see like dumb behavior safety wise?
Yeah.
Good Lord, it's my watch, and somebody gets hit by a discus or shot, then the whole sport gets criticized. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to avoid stuff like that.
No, 100%. No, I also heard on that podcast that you were explaining that you visited your brother in Lithuania a few times, and
I did.
you noticed the massive difference in the training in the States and then the training that they were doing over there in Lithuania.
Yeah.
What were the biggest differences that you found?
So, we always heard about the Soviet Union, and you thought, okay, you watched the Rocky IV movie and there's AK-47s and, suppression. But the fact is sport was like the number one outlet for people in that era and in those countries. The government supported sports big time because they wanted, the goal was to have a healthy citizens that can be physically more superior in actual battle. I've read that was one of the aims, and
Yeah.
to have healthy citizens for power and ability. You know, if you got a bunch of lazy, weak people, they're going to get beat down by aggressive, physically fit people in a battle. It's a bit savage, but that's kind of true. And but they also enjoyed, the freedom. They didn't have financial issues in communism. Like you didn't have to worry about eating and sleeping, so you could enjoy art, music, sport, and so sports was a huge part of society. And what I saw there was they trained for like fun and spirit and performance. But I always thought like, oh, the Soviets, it's all about drugs and pressure. And I did not actually personally see that. When I was there training, it was like the most fun I ever had. And we're climbing ladders and walking, spinning hammers over our head. And I'm like, what in the world kind of garbage is this? I never even imagined. And I'm realized that I asked the coach there when I was 16. I remember saying, "Hey, coach, what is javelin training? What should I be doing?" And he like pounds his chest and he says in Lithuanian to me, "Oh, it's got to be like Tarzan, running, swimming, flying, through the forest, and you got to be able to do everything. You got to be able to jump, twist." And I was like, "Wow, that's like not what I'm used to hearing at home. I'm used to hearing how much can you bench."
Yeah.
So I was like the weirdo that kind of came out of the scene. Thankfully, I was not a strong guy. Personally, I had to build it for years and years. I wasn't really strong until I was like 30 years old. So even in my early years as a javelin thrower, my numbers just paled. I would get paled in comparison to my opponents, but I was really skillful at throwing the actual javelin.
Mm-hmm.
And so the difference was we worried about being hulks, and like rhinos and hippos and gorillas, and they kind of trained to be panthers and cheetahs
Yeah.
athletically for javelin throwing.
Yeah. So the focus is more on how you can move, not really how much weight you can move around, basically.
Correct. And everybody, then you hear people, oh, but the Soviets are real strong. Well, those who were gifted for strength, yes, but that's not how they trained. I mean, I know two Olympic champions personally that are like family to me, Alekna and Ubartas. And I trained with Ubartas, and I guarantee you he wasn't as strong as he could have been. And he was a lot lighter than he could have been. He weighed 273 or something when he threw. He could have easily been 315. He's 6'8". He could have been a monster physically, but once he's benching in the upper fours and squatting 600 pounds, how much more do you need?
Yeah, and I remember seeing when you said Alekna, I remember seeing a video of when Milokas, or how I don't exactly know how to say his name, but
Nicholas, yeah, Michael.
yeah, his son went to Cal, that he said to the coach like, don't get him too strong or something like that.
That's true.
So yeah, so that's definitely, I think, something we could learn. And like plyometrics and stuff like that, obviously being more athletic is something that, especially at a high school level around the U.S. is very rare. It's very rare.
Yeah, there's been some burnt out bodies. I remember a few guys throwing real far. I forgot some of the names, but I do remember a couple guys that threw 70 feet in high school that wouldn't even get recruited because they were already benching 550 and squatting 700 pounds. And one was a guy on the East Coast. I don't want to bring up names. And then one guy was on the West Coast because his dad was like the co-owner of Gold's Gym or World Gym or something like that. I think he was from Oregon, and he was throwing in the low 70s in the shot. And like nobody's like, well, what are we gonna do with the guy? He's already squatting. Like, how much more can we do? Bench 650 and squat 900 pounds? Like, how much? The window of training is he's been lifting since he was 10 years old or whatever, 8 years old or something. So he was so, that's ruined athlete, but most people aren't ruined like that. But there's still, that there are people who are not used to moving like cat-like, and they're used to producing big strengths. But the fact is it's not always the case for shot and disc.
Yeah, I can totally say, I mean, definitely growing up, like I played football basically my whole life, and football, they're out there. You're obviously having football practice, running around, doing stuff. So I feel like I can move a little bit, but we weren't doing box jumps and jumping in the sand. We weren't doing that stuff. We would go in the weight room and, all right, we're benching today. We got an upper body day. We're doing legs today, or whatever it may be. So like getting to college and starting to we do a heavy box squat mixed with a box jump or something superset. That stuff to me was 100%.
Yeah, Derek's Bama program will be light years ahead of what you did probably.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's unfortunate. Then you look at the Werner Gunther video, and that tells you how Europeans train.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember watching that video growing
Yeah.
up, being like,
How
what?
weird is that? The man is 6'7". I knew the guy, and he's like 305, and he's a real gentle guy and very pleasant man, actually, very sophisticated, and used to smoke and just chill, a very quiet guy. But you see, was he strong? Oh my God. But did you see him run the hurdles and do the jumps? It's like, wait a second. How do you move like that?
Yeah.
And I've shown that video to an old buddy of mine named Oliver Gibson. Oliver played in the NFL, was an All-American at Notre Dame, and Oliver's about 6'3", 315. And, the last guy you'd want to meet angry is Oliver Gibson. I just try to be nice to him so he doesn't kill me. No, he was a good dude, and played in the NFL. And when I showed him that video, he goes, yeah, we don't do stuff we can't do stuff like that. Because we're wicked at our way, but that's a whole nother planet, that kind of athletic ability.
Oh, yeah.
So I love having big people that can motor. But again, it's a case-by-case basis at the elite level, because I wouldn't have Joe Kovacs just start jumping all over the place. That would be ridiculous. Yeah, he's doing.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Like he's one of the people that just lifts absurd numbers.
Yeah, he's just gifted for that, and I love that he's doing that. And he's at I've never even heard of he's putting up numbers that in the drug era nobody would do. So he's one of the more hardworking, gifted fellas I've ever seen, and he's just killer. He's a killer. I love it. So he's unique, and he's very special, and he's maximizing his personal strengths. He knows what he's doing. I would never say, oh, he could do better. That would be insane. No, I don't think he could do better. I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do what he needs to do it when he wants to do it. He's in command of himself very, very well. Very well. So is Ryan. Better than anybody.
No, I think obviously shot right now is just on a different level. It's insane, especially how far Ryan's been throwing. I think he's pushing everyone else in the event you have to be reaching for 23 meters if you actually think you should want to win a major championship or a world or an Olympic Games. If you're not throwing 23 meters, it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. I come from an era where in the early 90s, we would discuss, can you throw 70 clean? Now, I believed you could, because I had a teammate at Florida named Dwight Johnson. And Dwight threw 20 meters 06 at Florida and about 205 in the disc. And I don't want to rip on Dwight. He was a great guy, but he barely trained. He would come out of this. He didn't do anything all fall one year. And he showed up in January and just started throwing. Of course, my coach isn't happy about that. My John Kennison, who was just retired at TCU, great guy. And he would throw 61, 62 his first day throwing a shot. Hadn't worked out. So I'm
coach can't be too mad after that one,
I know somebody who threw 20 meters without working out. So
yeah,
I knew for sure someone can throw 21 or 2 without drugs. Somebody's got to be able to do that for sure. You just got to be really good. And then, of course, now we got guys, they're throwing 23, 50 clean. I hope they're clean. I would bet my life on it, actually. But I don't believe that there's any funny business going on there. I just think they're talented and they're great at it. So I come from a time when it was drugs had to be done to throw far, and now that's changed. In the 90s, we shifted to the thought of, hey, you can do this, you just got to be great at it.
Mm-hmm.
People like Adam Nelson, that era was very different.
Yeah, 100%. I love watching those videos of Adam Nelson and Cantwell and Reese Hoffa and all those guys throwing. I grew up watching videos like that. It's awesome.
They had spirit. I knew those guys personally, and my best friends from the earlier years, the best guys. Of course, they're my friend. I'm not gonna, they didn't have that same cheerful operational spirit. They were like, "Woe is me" type. And then I meet people like Adam and Darrell Hill. My God, he's as cool as it can be. He's one of the coolest guys I've met ever in track and field. Love the guy. big fans of these guys. I mean, Roger Steen, Kurt Jensen. You ever see Kurt Jensen?
Oh yeah.
When he hits
yeah.
a bomb and he jumps around, I do his dance in front of my wife and make fun of him. And my wife thinks I'm a whack job, but I love Kurt. You know, they're just great dudes.
Oh yeah.
They're having fun.
Yeah, they are having fun, and they also have some wild lifts up there in I think Wisconsin. I think is where they're from. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fish and lift.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah. Throwing's a pretty cool sport, especially when you get to that level. There's some pretty insane athletes and some pretty cool people. So.
Well, my favorite people in the world are throwers, you know, and track. I love the sport. I mean, personally, I'm like reserved. I'm 55, I'll be 56 this year. And I'm not doing anything else in life. I don't plan on going into another field or anything else. I'll find a way to stay in track and field till I want to stop.
Awesome. What was your experience like in the NCAA throwing the javelin? Or because I'm pretty sure I heard you went 2 or 3 different places before you ended up at Florida.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
So I'm an ass clown when it comes to grades in high school. I goofed around, and it's one of my biggest regrets. And I just didn't do well. So I chose a really great school and a very fun program, or fun school with a great throws program. We actually had 4 55-foot shot putters and even one guy over 60. It was Eastern Illinois University, and they had some really decent throwers in the 80s. And the head coach there, Neil Moore, he's passed away, was really a sweet man. And my grades and my mentality was suited for Eastern. It wasn't like, Harvard or University of Illinois, where Jerry was, where everybody who had really great grades went. Eastern was a solid liberal arts college that could help me get better in track and field. So I went, and after one semester, I'm throwing shot, disc, hammer, and shot put's going about 44, 5 feet. Discus is going 135, and the hammer's going, $140. And but the javelin is going 2 1/4.
Oh yeah.
And my coach is like, watching me throw everything else. And he's like, okay, so if you get a little bit better and bigger, which, I was having a hard time gaining weight. I weighed about 185, 190 pounds, and I'm just not naturally a big dude, and so struggling to gain, and I'm lifting really heavy, and javelin, it's not ideal for javelin. So they wanted me to throw 4 events, score points at conference, because, 50 feet in a shot, 150 in the disc, 170 in a hammer scores, and I win the javelin by 30 feet. And I got an argument with one of the shot putters on the team about reversing and non-reversing and how to throw. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is not going to work for me. It's not going to work. And I left, and I went to a junior college in Illinois, right by my home in Chicago, half-hour drive from the house. Met one of my favorite coaches of all time, a guy named Ron Otteson at the College of DuPage. And sorry about that, new puppy. He taught me how to temper my emotions, and it didn't matter if I threw shot or disc or whatever, and I still did. But I ended up throwing about 50 feet, just under 50. I think my best is 49.9 in the shot, or 49.7. I don't remember clearly. And in the discus, I threw 154 something. But I had a couple throws when I ended up at University of Florida. I was still throwing some discus my junior year of college, and I had a couple of 50-meter efforts at the Florida relays, and I remember fouling somehow, and then I kind of said, yeah, I think that's enough for me. That's enough with that, because I'm throwing javelin 240s, and 250, and it's like can't serve both fields there. And I wasn't going to be that, and that was like maxing myself out at 160. So, when my teammates are throwing 190 and 200, you're looking like and the SEC at the time, you're not going to score anything until you throw 175, 180 in the disc and throw 58 in a shot. It just doesn't matter.
No.
Or 55, so I was never going to get to those numbers. So, but the javelin showed itself, and then I committed totally to javelin, and of course I threw 273 in college, and that's it. So I went to 3 places, graduated from Florida, and did my master's degree studies at Valparaiso University outside of Chicago, just about a decade ago. So I was an old man when I went to college, senior for my master's.
100%. And how did you go from getting out of college to becoming an actual professional thrower who was making money and being able to sustain yourself to making 2 Olympics, making the 92 and the 96 Olympics? How did that process happen?
All right. So it's pretty simple. If you do well enough, you get to those things, right? And so process was I stayed in Gainesville 2 years after I got out in 1990. I finished my 4 years of eligibility and I was done with college. Boy, what I would have loved the red shirt because I had some injury. I didn't know about these things, and gosh, I would have done anything to go back and realize about medical red shirts and all those things. And so I improved. I had to go through some physical transformations. Like in 90, I approached 83. Did really well in the javelin. And the following year, it was my 5th year of school. I was studying really hard. And I guess I would say, looking back, I wasn't in the best shape of my life. And my throwing fell apart. I went to Europe for the first time. I was recovering from an elbow injury I had senior year. And boy, did I have my ass handed to me. And that hurt so bad because the year before, I thought I was going to throw 90 meters and break the world record. Mentally, I thought I can do it. Like, I was like, I'm going to do this. Yeah, it's no big deal. I'm going to get it done. I just got to get fired up. And then the following year, felt like I got run over by a train mentally, and I didn't have anything in the tank to use. And it was really, really a struggle. But I know that I wanted to be an international athlete, and I knew I was capable. And I remember dropping 20 pounds that fall and doing some heroically hard training and learning and studying. And then I started to get skills where I started throwing 80 meters all the time. And when you go 80 meters all the time, meet promoters don't mind having you in their competition.
Yeah.
When you're throwing under 80 meters, they don't care to have you in their competition. I've been told in my life I'm not good enough to be in their meet. And then the same meet promoter said, "Oh, I'll give you extra money if you come to my meet." So I felt both ends, but
I was about to say that's got to be tough, but it's got to be good feeling that you get some more money to show up. So
when you're a professional, you got to take punches in the face, bro. That's the way it is. So I learned how to not have excuses. Anecdotally, I'll tell you, I went to meet in Canada and they made us throw off grass, and I was bitching and moaning at the meet promoter. I'm like, "How can you have us? This is blah blah, unprofessional." And I threw like crap, and then I realized, well, I was a punk ass bitch. I was embarrassed. Yeah. And I went back a year later and he's like, "Tom, you okay to throw on the grass?" I'm like, "I'll be fine. I'll be just fine." And I threw 83 meters off the grass. And he's looking at me like, "How did you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm tired of making excuses. I don't have any more excuses. There's no reason to not do well. I just have to cope with it." Different mindset, much more professional. And so you start going through layers of skills. So first you get physically good enough to throw far, then you got to learn how to throw it in Europe. And fact is somehow I thrived in Europe. All my best throws in my life are in international competitions. And the only time I got nervous, like where I couldn't perform well, was at the games and world championships. I managed to choke and suck it up at several world championships and have some injuries that cost me heartache beyond measure. And I managed to miss the finals in 92 Olympics, and I should have easily been in the top 5 or 4th, 5th, or 6th place instead of 10th. In 96, I finished 8th in the Olympic final, and it was the strongest Olympic final ever. So I can't complain about that one, but that era was very strong. But again, you finish 8th and you're like, oh, 8th place, Been nice to say I took 4th or 3rd.
Yeah.
But it would have taken a PR to do so. I was ready for that, but I just didn't produce it. I threw far in the final. I threw 84.70 in Olympic qualifying and 83.58 in Olympic final. So if you just look at the distances without where I placed, anybody who does that's looking pretty okay on the international level. So
100%. What was your experience like at the Olympic Games? Like, what was that like? Because obviously in track and field, there's nothing bigger.
No, it's surreal. It feels so good. You want to share it with everybody. I mean, I was in such a state of mind where I'm walking into the opening ceremony and, it's like I'm not touching the ground. I'm euphoric. I'm so excited and happy and proud. You got a tear in your eye and a scream in your, a lump in your throat, and you just wish you can hug everybody. It's not something you want to keep to yourself. It's like, well, this is great. I wish everybody could feel like
No, 100%.
that was like the love I had for what I was doing,
Yeah. All right. Well, I know that obviously the USA Javelin Project is something that I see on Instagram all the time, videos, and you
Yeah.
got really, really good throwers there. So I know that you came in initially, like when I first met you, you were at Hoover coaching. But
Yeah.
how did you get into that? How did that whole situation and group actually get started?
So Maggie Malone was an Olympian in 2016, and we were at the Tucson Elite Throws meet, and I'm sitting there, which I'm the national throws coordinator, so I'm always active with elites, but I just coached at high schools because I didn't want a full-time coaching job. My wife has always been our breadwinner, and I'm allowed to live my semi-retired life of passion. I don't have to get a gig at of Georgia or Alabama or Eugene, Oregon or Texas to make ends meet. I'm okay, and so I could do very little and enjoy it. And so I always enjoyed myself with elite athletes. They'd come visit me and spend time at the house. And so Maggie walks up and she's like, "Hey, can you coach me?" And I said, yeah, like just come to the house. You spend a week. I don't, we got guest quarters. You'll be happy. It'll be great. No, like I want to move to Birmingham. And what do you mean? She's like, yeah, I want you to coach me full time. And I was shocked and honored and humbled and kind of blown away. And I thought, gosh, what an amazing moment, And I called my wife and I said, if I do this, I'm not going to make any money, but it's going to take everything I got to be part of their lives. And because it's Olympics, it's different. You got to commit. You can't just, oh, I'll do a little Olympic coaching. No. I got to do everything, full time and sacrifice. And she's like, yeah, you're built for this. Go for it. You'll have the time of your life. Just do it. And so that was cool. And then I called Hoover and the coach, and they were like, yep, you can train here. No problem. And all of a sudden I got yeses instead of nos. And then Maggie told a bunch of others, like Ethan Shalloway, who's still with me. He was an old friend that I've coached, and a lot of the kids kind of knew me through, my USATF situation and role. And they got 8 people showed up and started training. And the best part was when they showed up, I think we got like 6 of 8 PRs, and it made me look really good. But, I got handed the keys to Porsches and Ferraris. It's not that hard to race them fast on a track. I don't have to be a miracle worker. I just have to be steady and reasonable. And I'm fairly steady and fairly reasonable. I'm not, freaky about coaching or what to do. I know what to do. And my background is thankfully because I was the English speaking javelin guy. All my friends are all the top athletes in the world, and now they are the top coaches in the world. So my coaching circle, like where my knowledge comes from, it's like, okay, I used to 3 months a year, 4 years in a row, Boris Henry used to come live at my house in Louisiana for 6 weeks, earlier in the winter, and then in the spring, 6 weeks at a time. His coach was Klaus Bartonetz. Well, Boris has been the national throws coach or javelin coach in Germany for like 15 years, 17 years, and he's coached several world champions and Johannes Vetter. And then Klaus Bartonetz is the head coach in India.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Klaus's 3 athletes were 1st, 4th, and 7th in the world championship. So where the hell do you think I get my information from? The guys down the street or some collegiate throwers that threw, no, I'm asking the Finns, who are my closest personal friends, I'm privy to information that they have on life work, and I get information and I understand the biomechanics of the sport and the training requirements of the event. And I just offer those things.
100%. And how did you get from going from Hoover to now you're at Sanford? What led to that decision?
It was an interesting one. So when I first moved to Birmingham from Chicago, I actually looked up who's coaching track at what places in Birmingham. And I found Rod Tiffin, the head coach at Sanford's. And I go, oh, I met him. I know that guy. And I sent him an email and said, hey, Ron, can you tell me where to live? Do you know anybody? Can you hook me up with like a real estate agent? He hooked me up with a guy named Mike Abercrombie, and Mike ran at Auburn when I was in college. So he knows all of my teammates. So Mike was a real estate agent. And so he's like, oh, you got to meet Devin Hine at Hoover. You got to meet the Coach Eccles at Mountain Brook. And I meet all these coaches and they're like, oh, you got to work here. You got to work here. You got to, come help us. And I ended up at Hoover. But when I first contacted Tiffin, I went to first 3 days I was here, I had lunch with him and he says, hey, I got a really good coach here, but would you be available if he ever left? I said, yeah, call me when that time comes. And in the same week that Coach Hine from Hoover retired, I got a call from Rod and he's like, you available? And I said, what do I got to do? And he goes, I need you to love on the kids, give them good information and just recruit and coach. Part-time. He goes, yeah. And I go, cool. So do I got to go to meetings? He's like, no. Do I get an office? No. Can I train the USA Javelin Project at the track? Yes. I'm in.
That's all you needed to hear.
Yeah. And now that I've been there, I love the kids at Sanford. I mean, I got, the kid at they're very, very, very good people. Ethically and morally, they're not challenged. And I always make a statement like, you hear all this politics like doom and gloom, oh, we're going bad. And I'm like, listen, if the kids that I coach at Sanford are like our American leaders or leadership and on our team, I'm like, yeah, we're fine. I'm fine. We're good. Don't worry about it. we're going to have a very good life. So I love coaching those people, especially I love coming to the track and saying hi every day. I'm absolutely energized from youth. So when I see you guys throw, I'm fired up about it. And as you may know, the only thing that drives me batshit crazy now is the officials it seems like they're countering, I'm trying to build the sport and make it better for everybody. And it's like they worry about little rules. And I feel like they're against, I don't know what to say anymore. I'm struggling with that, basically, at the cross.
Oh, no. I was about to say, I've been at the Crossplex with you many a time, so I know exactly what you mean.
I don't understand. It's such a nice facility, but it feels so unwelcoming to be there. I don't know.
No, 100%. There's like the thing that bothers me with officials most times is there's a 15-minute warm-up clock, and then we got to go stand in the back of the line to make sure I'm the last one in the line. And it's like, to get your last warm-up though, you got to go over there and literally try to sweet talk him. Like I had to do this the other day. I literally went over to the official and was like, come on, man, our guy's literally 16th in the order. Like, can he please get one more so he doesn't have to sit here for 15 minutes in between throws? And then he finally let him get one, but it's like, come on, man. Like, we know what's going on here. Is his the 12 seconds that he's going to be in the ring, is that going to cause a big, like, that's going to be the issue with how we're running the meet right now?
Irrelevant.
Yeah. What do you
how do you feel when you're there? Like, what do you feel in that facility?
I can say that the facility, I like the facility just because it's a good facility, but
it is.
The way that some of the stuff gets run is definitely not the best, but I can't say that it's massively better if we go somewhere else. I'll say
no, there's nowhere for us to go. I mean, why travel 4 more hours for a marginally better situation? Yeah, I just wish that the Crossplex folks would maybe gather themselves and, I don't know, just try to be more inviting. That's all I would say. I got ideas, but I'm not going to,
They're very picky. Like, if you walk up this way, you can't walk back this way. And it's like a crime against humanity if you do that.
I've been an owner of a 90,000 square foot facility. I've worked in them. I have my master's degree in sports administration. I know about policy and laws and rules, and it's such a waste of manpower to have someone there. I've been in there 60 times, and we've had meets with 3,000 kids, and the place is stuffed, and I can't imagine it being an issue to have someone walk one way or the other. I just don't understand it. Yeah, and you got two people sitting, and then what happens is then you got to confront people, and it's a negative aura.
Yeah,
and I can't imagine. I can take that away, and I guarantee there'd be no issues. I just can't imagine it in a million years.
100%. No, it blows my mind sometimes, but like at the end of the day, you just got to go throw and try to throw the best you can.
Yeah,
that's what you got to do. But
it is a nice space. It is a nice space,
Oh, 100%. It's one of my favorite rings. Like the actual ring, I love it and all that. But yeah, it can definitely get interesting sometimes with the way they try to do it.
I was wondering if I'm the idiot.
No, definitely not. I mean, we were there the other day, and I mean, when you got a girl throwing 17 mid in the shot, and you got a barrier that's at 18 meters, like it's not the best thing
Yeah.
that's got going on. So yeah, I had a shot rolling at me pretty fast. Thank God I was looking. So
Yeah. And I had to knock one down with my hand that I was afraid to go
oh
over.
yeah,
I was, then I got yelled at because the guys were like, "Don't hurt yourself for that," and I was trying to be like the nice guy. What can you do?
100%. What can you do? But as a throws coach, especially in college now,
Yeah.
what do you look for when you're recruiting kids?
Well, let's talk about it like this. What do I look for? Who to fund from USA Track and Field for high performance? Who do we give money to?
Okay.
So we have several structures of funding at USATF. So you have this tier system that covers about 120 athletes. Then you have the talent protection program, which is kids who are exceptional out of college, like a Turner Washington, NCAA champion is shot, like a Jordan Geist, 71 footer in high school, 245 in a hammer. Yeah, if you're not helping that guy, what the hell is wrong with you? Geez Louise, they're knocking on the door of teams already out of
Yeah.
college. So they get helped, and they help about 60 kids. So now we're talking about 180 kids getting funded. And then the next level is development funding. And people like Brian Williams got developmental funding last year. Then he threw really well, made the finals, took ninth at the World Championship, and now he's a tier athlete. So those are the levels of funding we have. Who gets that money? Development funding is for the people that aren't getting funded by their own abilities. So we can argue over certain people, and I do. And I have a lot of sway. I got denied on one person this year that I'm really upset about, but I'm going to rectify that soon. I'm not going to get into who because I haven't told him yet that I thought he was funded and he's not. And I'm blown away. I was told he was. And then now there was a meeting at the national convention, and administrators from USATF said, "No, we're not funding him. He's too old." And I was like, but Gia Lewis Smallwood threw the American record when she was like 36. She wasn't good until she was 33 years old. Stephanie Brown Trafton won the Olympic gold when she was over 30. So according to she wasn't funded prior to that. So what are we going to, age is a limiting factor? No, I don't believe in that. Not in the throws. Not in the throws. Tell me a hammer thrower can't throw far when he's 32. Tell me. 34.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes that long to figure it out. Maybe they got to work through their 20s because they don't have the money to actually train. And then when they hit 30, you know what? They get a bump in pay. I'm not joking. And then all of a sudden, hey, you know what? I can take Friday off. I can lift and train better. And then all of a sudden they go from 74 to 78 meters. That's 100%. How so you're asking me who makes it? Those who have spirit, those who show that you can't, there's guys throwing well in the disc, guys throwing well in the shot, but they don't have that you just know something's going on. Like Roger Steen. I love Roger Steen. He's like Kurt Jensen's guy.
Mm-hmm.
Roger threw 22:08, 09. Last year at Tucson. Roger is a fiery fella, and I watched him go, get to 20, then get to 20:50, then get to 21, and then build, and then bang, 22. And when I chose him, they were looking at me like, why are we choosing this guy for funding? And I'm like, have you ever seen him compete? Have you ever? No, no, I follow him. Then he goes 22, and then I get good choice. So 100%. I'm looking for that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to college, my kids at Samford, my level is I need good academic athletes who care about themselves, their parents, God, and their teammates. We have a tremendous camaraderie. I love the kids there. They all get along. Everybody hangs out. So I'm not looking for diva world beaters. I'm looking for quality people who want good coaching and solid education in a smaller setting. It's not a party school. It's sure as heck is in Alabama. Not very few schools are like Alabama. from a matter of size and, football programming, and everybody knows in the country, Alabama. I mean, I have people from Chicago that go to school at Bama because how good the football team, and just Bama. No
Yeah,
problem.
we'll see if that keeps it up. We'll see.
I think you'll be fine.
I hope so. I hope so.
I think you'll be fine. And so yeah, and so I'm looking for just quality types who can hang with a team and do their best.
100%.
Just like everybody is. But
Yeah.
I'm not under pressure to win NCAA championships.
Yeah.
Like Don Babbitt at Georgia. He's a great coach, one of the best there ever was out there. He's one of the top 20 combo thrower coaches in the world. I would maybe better than top 20. Maybe he's top 7. I don't know. He's great, obviously. He's produced time and time again. He knows what he's doing. His temperament is awesome. His knowledge is second to none. And he's a good dude, and he'll help you out. Well, I know I had a conversation with him a few years back, and I'm not going to divulge too many details, but I'll just say it like he's not in position to give scholarship to kids who throw far in high school because he needs to score points immediately. And so he can't even fund a kid a full ride who's thrown 73 feet in high school in the shot, because that means he's only going to throw maybe 63 in college. And unfortunately, that doesn't help his team. And I'm thinking, Don, you're one of the best guys in the world, but you're not available to a developmental athlete. So I'm on the other end. I have time to take the unpolished diamond and unpolished gem, and I can take my time, and develop. And so the big schools are not that easy to deal with. I mean, my friends are coaches at the biggest schools, and they have to get the top people, and they're under pressure to deliver big results, or they lose their jobs. And that's, if you're asking me why I didn't like to want to work for the NCAA, because I don't want my livelihood to depend on a guy I'm not going to be a head coach. I'm a thrower. I don't become a head coach unless I do something really special. But, Brian Bluetrick, he's at Oklahoma for a decade. Time and time again, NCAA champions, winners, record setters, and he gets let go because they hire a new head coach, and he thinks, oh, I'll get a better guy. I'll bring in my guy. And then within 2 years, that program's a dump. The head coach was a joke. And now who would want to go to Oklahoma? The last I checked, I don't even know if they're any good at anything.
Yeah.
No offense. Sorry.
No, 100%. I've seen it, especially with like the transfer portal opening up so much in the last few years. Yeah. It's especially as a coach at that level, like it's very difficult for them to take that chance on a high school kid, because they can go get a kid who he's thrown 18 meters with a 16-pound shot already. So like there's no question about what can he throw. He's already done it.
Bring him in.
Yeah.
And you woo him, and to get him in financially, you just spend the extra scholarship money because you know what he's going to do. So it's a really tough scene for the top coaches. I really feel for those guys. They're under a lot of pressure.
100%.
Too much.
What would your advice be to a high school kid like now that's throwing, if they're looking to get recruited? What would you tell them? Would you tell them to maybe go to a smaller school and then look to transfer later if they're trying to do that? Or
I read an article about this Ben Smith kid out of high school throwing really well. His dad was a thrower at Wisconsin, and he's going to go to Oregon. Like, I saw Oregon's facilities. I mean, to be frank, they're too good. You're going to have collegiate athletes are going to be in a $300 million facility with oxygen chambers and that. I mean, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. Like, I was a former American record holder. I was the number 1 guy. I never had anything like that when I was nothing like that. I had good facilities. Florida was outstanding. Everywhere I trained. LSU was outstanding, but we had a dungeon for a gym. Oregon is so nice that if you become a pro coming out of there, you won't be able to afford anything like the support you have as a university athlete. You won't be able to afford it unless you're a gold medal winning distance runner, or you're the best sprinter in the world, where you make $2 to $3 million a year. Then you can afford, to spend a few $100,000 on keeping your body in order. But I'm like, it's like too nice. So I would say if you get to the best financial position you can be as a thrower and get to the best school that's the most fun. But if that's not your cup of tea, which it's not for everybody, then go where you can best get your education and fill your head and your mind with great experiences, with surrounded by great people. So that could be a million places because there's a
Yeah.
lot of great coaches out there. I mean, all the SEC coaches are good dudes. They're working hard, or good ladies, they're working hard, they're trying. If you can leverage your athletic skills to get an education, do that first. Ask Adam Nelson about education. You think he's not a smart guy?
He went
Dartmouth
to
grad.
Dartmouth. I was about to say, yeah.
Sean Fury, Olympian in the javelin, Dartmouth grad. Craig
Mm.
Kinsley, Olympian in the javelin, throws coach at Brown. You think he's a dope? Are you kidding me? He's a very intelligent young man. There's a lot of special guys like that. And so, I mean, to me, it's where you fit most and where you'll enjoy yourself the most. And then there's going to be a few people that'll go on to Olympic and spectacular levels. They can go wherever they feel like they want to be. Some have egos and want to be at the wickedest school. Go ahead, do the SEC, do the Texas at Texas A&M and the Oregon, and go there with the best coaches and the biggest money and the best, but the rest of those people, there's 2 or 3 of those people maybe, and then the rest of them, go where you feel comfortable. And there's a lot of great choices. And it's not always about splash, It's about character and
100%.
does your coach really care, And I know a lot of guys that really care, and a lot of coaches that really care about their athletes, and are trying to do their job, especially in track and field, because the money's not big enough, What's the highest paid throws coach in the country make? I don't think anybody's making $200,000. Maybe there might be 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. You can't be there just for the money. If you're there
You
just
got to
for the
go
money,
where coaches
it's not
love
right.
it. Yeah, you got to go where coaches love it. They're lifers. What's Derek gonna do? You don't think he loves the sport? He's just trying to
Yeah.
doing his best. He's enjoying himself, and I hope he is at least. And go where a coach is committed to you, and you can feel comfortable.
All right, Coach. I really appreciate you coming on. It was a great conversation.
All right, good to see you again.